Chevrolet Monte Carlo, a car that struck the perfect balance between muscle, style, and everyday comfort. The late 1960s were already crowded with loud, fast, tire-shredding machines, but the Monte Carlo offered something different. It had presence, power, and just enough elegance to stand out in a sea of brute force. But what made people actually fall in love with it? That's what we're about to find out. You see, when Chevrolet rolled out the Monte Carlo in September 1969, for the 1970 model year, they couldn't have picked a better time. The market was ripe for something fresh. Back then, personal luxury cars were the trend. The Ford Thunderbird and Pontiac Grand Prix had already made waves, but people wanted a car that didn't just get them from point A to B. They wanted a car that made a statement while doing it. The Monte Carlo was Chevy's first shot at this kind of car, and even its name, borrowed from the fancy city of Monte Carlo in Monaco, screamed class and style. And here's what made the timing genius. The muscle car craze was starting to slow down as the 60s came to a close. The same people who once craved raw power, those baby boomers, were now hitting their 30s. They wanted something that still felt fun behind the wheel, but also showed they'd grown up a bit. Plus, with insurance companies making muscle cars crazy expensive to own, people were looking for a smarter option. The Monte Carlo stepped in right at that sweet spot, still sporty, but with a touch of elegance that muscle cars just didn't have. Now the Monte Carlo didn't just enter the market quietly, it absolutely crushed it. In its very first year, it outsold the Ford Thunderbird 3-1. We're talking about nearly 146,000 Monte Carlos hitting the streets, compared to just over 50,000 Thunderbirds. That's not just success, that's a complete domination of the personal luxury car scene. And the design? Oh man, it was spot on. Built on a stretched Chevelle base, the Monte Carlo had this long, sleek hood and a short rear end that just oozed class. Sure, the Monte Carlo looked stunning with its long hood and sleek lines, but under that stylish skin was some clever engineering that made it a joy to drive. One of the cool little details was the hidden windshield wipers, something you'd usually expect on pricier luxury cars. It also came with 15-inch wheels that gave it a confident stance. And the interior? Well, that was pure class. You'd step inside and feel like you were in a car that cost a lot more than it actually did. Thanks to its longer wheelbase, the Monte Carlo didn't just look balanced, it offered extra room inside and a ride so smooth, it felt like gliding over the road. What's really smart is how Chevy kept things efficient. While the Monte Carlo shared parts with the Chevelle, like the roof and some interior bits, it looked and felt like its own machine. This clever platform sharing kept production costs down, so Chevy could deliver a car that felt like true luxury, without making buyers empty their wallets. And speaking of price, that's where the Monte Carlo truly won people over. When it hit the market in 1970, it started at just $3,123. Imagine that! It was cheaper than even the Impala Sport Coupe, and way more affordable than competitors like the Thunderbird or Grand Prix. But being affordable didn't mean it was bare bones. The base model came with a solid 350 cubic inch V8, pushing 250 horsepower, plus power front disc brakes. And if you wanted more, you could load it up with options like power windows, air conditioning, rally wheels, you name it. Even fully loaded, it still undercut the competition. What's more, all this smart design and pricing made the Monte Carlo a goldmine for General Motors. By using existing parts and charging a fair price, they made a car that didn't just please buyers, it made GM some serious profit and helped secure the Monte Carlo's place in automotive history. Now, even though Chevy sold the Monte Carlo as a personal luxury car, they didn't forget about us enthusiasts who still wanted some muscle under the hood. The real star was the Monte Carlo SS 454, offered in 1970 and 1971. This beast came with a massive 454 cubic inch V8. In 1970, it pushed out 360 horsepower, and in 71, they bumped it up to 365. But the real shocker was that the engine delivered 500 pound-feet of torque. That meant this luxury coupe could blast from 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. Seriously quick for something that looked so classy. The SS package wasn't just about the big motor either. You got heavy-duty suspension, fatter tires for better grip, and even automatic load-leveling rear suspension. It may have been marketed as luxury, but it could easily hold its own in the performance world. Sure, only about 5,700 of these SS models were made between 1970 and 71, but boy, did they give the Monte Carlo some serious street cred. And Chevy didn't stop at the 454. They offered plenty of engine choices to suit different drivers and budgets. If you wanted solid power without breaking the bank or getting hit hard by insurance, you could go for the 350 or 400 cubic inch V8s. That's what made the Monte Carlo so appealing. It could be as tame or as wild as you wanted. So far, we've seen a car that outsold the T-Bird, balanced brawn and class, and even snuck in race-ready torque. But how did it make the leap to NASCAR royalty? Well, the Monte Carlo didn't just look good or go fast on the street, it became a NASCAR legend. Starting in the early 80s, when GM convinced Junior Johnson to race Monte Carlos, the car started racking up wins. It became one of the most successful nameplates in NASCAR history. With champions like Terry Labonte and Darrell Waltrip behind the wheel, the Monte Carlo proved it had the heart of a racer. And if there's one thing that really boosted the Monte Carlo's fame, it was its connection with none other than Dale Earnhardt. You can't talk about American racing without picturing that legendary black number 3 Chevy roaring around the NASCAR tracks. But before that black paint job, in the 1986 season, Earnhardt's Monte Carlo wore bold blue and yellow Wrangler jeans colors. That car wasn't just fast, it became one of the most iconic sights in American motorsports. And 1986, that's when Earnhardt won his second NASCAR Cup Series championship. The Monte Carlo and Dale Earnhardt became a team that fans worshipped. And it's safe to say that partnership helped the Monte Carlo earn its spot as a true legend in racing circles. But the Monte Carlo meant something special on the streets too. For many middle-class Americans, owning a Monte Carlo was like saying, "I've made it." It gave off this vibe of class and success without the sky-high price tag of those fancy European brands. Even the name, Monte Carlo, brought to mind that glamorous, high-rolling city in Monaco. It made people feel like they were part of something bigger, something more modern. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The Monte Carlo hit its stride during what folks called the Me Decade, the 1970s. This was a time when people were really focused on their own style, comfort, and personal success. And guess what? The Monte Carlo fit that mood perfectly. It was all about personal luxury and showing off a bit of individual flair. Sales went through the roof in those years. Chevy sold over 353,000 in 1976. And in 1977, they topped 411,000. That's the kind of number you see with modern bestsellers like the Toyota Camry. And the magic didn't stop there. The Monte Carlo stuck around for 6 generations, staying in production for an impressive 37 years, with a little break between 1989 and 1994. What's cool is how the car kept up with the times without losing its original charm. It started out as a rear-wheel drive coupe, but later generations switched to front-wheel drive to meet changing tastes and fuel economy rules. Chevy kept adding modern touches too, better safety features, improved emissions controls. But through it all, the Monte Carlo kept that mix of style, comfort, and performance that people fell for in the first place. Today, Monte Carlos are getting a lot of love from collectors and car fans. The first-generation models in particular are seen as hidden gems. You can still find great examples for around $22,400, which is honestly a steal for a car with muscle car power, elegant looks, and that rich racing heritage. Bonus bit, did you know there was a Monte Carlo with a turbocharged 3.8-liter V6? Yep, in the mid-80s, it tried to go Buick GNX style. So, would you have picked the Monte Carlo over the Grand Prix or Thunderbird back in 1970? Share your thoughts in the comments. And hey, if you're enjoying this kind of car content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Before you go, you've got 2 great options. Check out our recommended video on the front-wheel drive V8 Cadillac that challenged Rolls-Royce. And trust me, it's a wild story. Or click on the video YouTube picked just for you based on what you like to watch.